pioneers in the tourism and hospitality industry. Several notable individuals have made major contributions to the establishment and development of the tourist and hospitality industries. Cesar Ritz, Ellsworth Melton Statler, Conrad Hilton, Thomas Cook, Howard Daring Johnson, J. Williard Marriott, Ray Kroc, Isadore Sharp, and Ruth Fertel are among them. Cesar Ritz was appointed as a general manager of the Savoy Hotel in London, one of world's most famous and finest hotels. He transformed the hotel into a high society cultural center. The Ritz-Carlton brand is linked with polished, elegant hotels and service. His name is currently associated with the Ritz-Carlton hotels. Statler, Ellsworth Milton. Statler is widely regarded as a greatest hoteler of all time. He provided a high level of comfort and convenience to middle-class travelers at a reasonable price. He was the first to install telephones and radios in every guest room, as well as full-length mirrors, built-in closets, and an ice water faucet. Conrad Hilton was previously known as the biggest hotelman in the world, and the New York Times labeled him as the masters of hotel finance, as he was cautious not to overfinance and had a perfect sense of timing. In 1954, he established the first significant chain of American hotels, a collection of hotels that adhered to standard operating practices. Thomas Cook is credited with being the first professional travel agency. He established the world's first travel agency. He is recognized with making global travel affordable to the middle class. The phrase Cook Store is still used today to describe a tour that visits several locations and pauses short at each one. Howard Daring Johnson, or Howard Johnson, was a forerunner in brand leveraging. In the 1930s, he introduced the franchising business model to the restaurant industry. Howard Johnson is now one of the most well-known names in the restaurant and hotel industry. J. Williard Marriott established the Marriott Corporation, which has been a valuable asset to the hotel sector. Jay was able to succeed because of his strong faith and dedication. Williard Marriott started with a root beer stand out of hardship and grew it into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Ray Kroc has been the most financially successful hospitality entrepreneur of all the time. Through his strong dedication, organizational abilities, endurance, and exceptional marketing ability, he built the McDonald's Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Kroc established various operating criteria, including the quality service, cleanliness, and value, or QSC and V. Never be idle for a minute, as Kroc's credo goes, was also infused into the company. Isadore Sharp, a first-generation Canadian, founded Four Seasons Regent Hotels, the world's largest hotel chain with a multi-billion-dollar worldwide hotel empire. The success of the Four Seasons Regent Hotels is primarily attributed to Isadore Sharp's passion, tenacity, and personal taste and style. Ruth Fertel was the founder of Chris Steakhouse, the country's most upmarket restaurant franchise. It has 59 locations, 54 in the United States and Puerto Rico, and 5 abroad. It sells more than 11,000 steaks every day and has a yearly revenue of $200 million. Ruth Fertel is currently the most successful female restaurateur as a result of her output. Regions of tourism and hospitality in the Philippines. Tourism and hospitality in the Philippines originated when the country's indigenous inhabitants wandered about looking for food. Intertribal travel happened. However, the manner of transportation was primitive. When Ferdinand Magellan explored the Philippines and galleons or wooden vessels traveled between Mexico and the Philippines during the galleon trade, a more identifiable type of tourism and hospitality emerged. The development of more comfortable and speedier modes of transportation provided an early push for tourism and hospitality in the Philippines. Colorum denotes unlawful tour handling and the illegal use of private vehicles for public use, and it was used by entrepreneurs with their unregistered private automobiles and coaches to give inland tours to travels from United States, China, Japan, and Europe. It was permitted by the government officials at that time since tourism had not yet established. Although there were already visitor arrivals from other countries, there were no tour operators nor travel agency which existed formally. There were some offices like the American Express International, which informally arranged land tours and foreign travelers. In the Philippines, there were just a few tourist attractions and locations. Manila, Pagsanjan Falls, Laguna Lake Tour, Tagaytay and Taal Volcano, Mount Mayon Tour, Legazpi Tour, Baguio City Tour, and Banawi Tour were among them. In the 1920s, Cebu City and Zamboanga City were also famous tourist destinations in the south. Prior to World War II, it was impossible to quantify tourist activities since there were no statistical records or statistics accessible. A more ordered tourism industry began in 1947. As steamship and aircraft began to service the Philippines from other nations, tourism and hospitality flourished. In 1952, the first Tourism and Hospitality Association in the Philippines was organized. The Philippine Tourist and Travel Associations, or PTTA, was formed to bring together all current travel firms that cater to both local and foreign passengers. The government supported the PTTA in order to boost the country's tourist and hospitality industries. Beginning in the 1960s and continuing into the 1970s, the Philippines experienced economic, social, and political upheavals that hampered the growth and promotion of tourism and hospitality. Accommodations were poor and airlines were given a little incentive to market the Philippines as a tourist destination. And due to the country's volatile conditions, the tourist sector has been denied peace and order, cleanliness, financial backing, and other critical aspects for tourism and hospitality growth. It was only in 1972, after the declaration of martial law, when tourism and hospitality in the Philippines prospered. This was due to favorable conditions such as safety of tourism and hospitality. Better service and sanitation facilities were more financial support from the government, and the vigorous cooperation of the private sector. Thus, the Philippines became a bargain destination to foreign visitors. Tourism and hospitality in the Philippines today are the result of continuous development and promotion of tourism and hospitality since 1950. In terms of visitor arrivals, the growth in the tourism and hospitality business is not particularly outstanding when compared to neighboring nations. The National Tourism Organization, or NTO, of the Philippines, also known as the Department of Tourism, has embarked on a number of plans and programs to ensure that tourists have a pleasant and welcoming entry, stay, and departure, as well as to ensure the harmonious, positive, and constructive development of the tourism and hospitality industry. Among these are: number one, increase visitor arrivals, especially from nearby markets like Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and high-spending markets like Germany. Number two, increase tourism and hospitality receipts through longer stays, now set at 11 days and higher spending per day. It is estimated at $110 per day, which cannot be accomplished through more appealing destinations and tours, more shopping and dining, and attracting not only budget travelers but also upscale markets. Number three is expanding domestic tourism and hospitality through more promotions, cheaper tour package, and new facilities, especially for the lower income segments. Number four is expand the capacity of tourism and hospitality by promoting more private sector investments.